Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. I'm excited about being with you again for another episode where I unpack the biggest challenges facing leaders and HR executives as they try to build diverse, high-performing teams and a world-class workplace culture where nobody wants to quit and everybody wants to stay productive. And I got a lot that I want to unpack for you in a very short time today because I got to catch a plane. So I want to make sure that I give you value, but at the same time, don't get too long-winded with this. But let me first tell you that today we're going to talk about the hospitality industry. Now, when I say hospitality, I want you to think about all of the places that we frequent that might be in what we call the hospitality and enjoyment industry. So that could be an airline, that's hotels, that's restaurants, that is rental car companies. There's all kinds of companies that we utilize when we take a vacation, when we take a trip, when we entertain. These are event management companies, etc. See, and the reason why I want to frame this up in this way is that as a keynote speaker, I travel all across the country. I've stayed in countless hotel chains, eaten at countless restaurants, went to countless convention centers, casinos, any kind of entertainment apparatus where people enjoy. I've been in cities like Las Vegas, like Los Angeles, Tampa, Florida, Orlando, Florida, New York City, you name it. If there's a place where tourists come to visit and they also host conferences and they bring in speakers, I've pretty much been to most of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but I've been to a lot, both in the United States and other places outside the United States, Montreal, South Africa. I mean, I've been to a lot of places as a speaker, as an advisor, as a leadership thought leader. I've been and stayed in so many places. And I can tell you that in the places that I've stayed in, I've had some remarkable experiences. I mean, the staff was amazing. The experience was amazing at certain hotels. And then at other hotels, the experience was not so amazing. Sometimes it was downright awful. And I had some bad experiences as a customer. And I'm certain that if you've traveled, you have some places where you've had a great experience and you've had some awful experiences as well. And I can tell you that from my times of traveling, I know whether it's going to be a good experience or a bad experience, depending on how the staff responds to me when I ask them the initial question. So many times I do this when I check in at a hotel and they say, hello, how you doing? And, can I have your name? And they start to check me in. Well, while they're doing what they do, I ask some simple questions. Sometimes it's, so how long have you been working here? And if they say, oh, I've only been here 6 months, or I only been here 9 months, I only been here a year, then I already know this is a brand new employee who just completed some training at some point. And then my second question is, so how you like working here? And sometimes if it's a short-term employee, they will toe the company line and say, oh, I love it. Well, I know you ain't been there a year yet, so you don't really know how good or bad it is. You just figuring things out. You probably just figured out what a break room in the bathroom is. But if you've been an employee for 5 years, I get a little bit more honesty from them. I do this the same way when I check in for flights. Sometimes I don't check in on the app and I got to go to the counter. If I got to check a bag or something, I will ask the staff at the counter the exact same questions. Now, what am I doing when I do this? Number one, I'm trying to understand who are you and tell me a little bit about your experience in the workplace. I want to know, do you love what you do, who you work for, the people you work around, and the company that you work with? So I'm going to tell you this quick story, and it's going to be quick. I'm going to have to make it quick, but it's a long story. I flew into Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. I was going out there to speak at an event, and I rented a car. I flew in on a Friday. Friday is a busy time, and I rented a car because I had to drive an hour south of the airport for where the venue was. Not really an hour, it was about 45 minutes south. So when I get to the rental car counter, I usually see my name on the board or see my name somewhere where I could just go get my vehicle. Well, my name wasn't there. So they walked me to a counter on the side where there was a woman there, and she said, "Can I have your name?" I gave her my name, and she was banging on the computer, and she let out this big sigh. And then she leaves the computer and she just runs around the corner. And then I can see her running up and down aisles to look. And then she comes back and she tries to bang on the computer again. And then she says, "I'll be right back." And she runs away again. And this goes on like 3 or 4 times. She physically is running away from the counter and then coming back. And every time she's more out of breath, she starts to sweat a little bit. And I'm looking at her like, what's going on? This has got to be a problem of some sort. And she says, "Well, I got to go find you a car. I'll be right back." So she leaves again. This time when she leaves, a coworker of hers walks over. And I can tell this coworker is in training. She hasn't been there a long time. I said, "So what's going on?" She says, "Well, she's going back and forth trying to find a car." I said, "Well, tell me about how long have you worked here?" "I've been worked here a short time. I'm in training." So we go through the whole rigmarole. And then she asked me, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a leadership consultant because I help leaders build diverse, high-performing teams and a world-class workplace culture. And I actually come to, and I speak at a lot of conferences." And she says, "Oh, are you here to speak at some event that I know about?" I was like, "No, you probably don't know the group because I got to go south of LA." And she said, "Oh." So then when her coworker finally comes back and is banging on the computer, she proceeds to tell her coworker, "Amy, you need to know this man." And Amy is looking at her like, "Well, I know what his name is because I'm trying to find him a car." She was like, "No, sir, tell her what you do." And I told Amy that. And Amy looked at me like the first time that somebody's ever paid attention to her in her life. And she literally says to me, "You need to meet my manager." And I said, "Well, why do I need to meet your manager?" She said, "Because I've been out here all day since 7:45 this morning with a broken computer, and they're not helping me at all. I can't toggle through the screens to see what cars we have. So I'm having to run down and look and physically spot the car with my eyes to know whether we got cars there. And you see, I've been doing this all day, and you see how many people in line behind you. And there was like 5 people in line behind me, and there was 5 people in line in front of me." So she was totally frustrated. So I'm now talking to her and I'm asking her questions. I say, "Are you guys in a labor union?" She says, "Yeah, and we just signed our contract, and this is ridiculous because this is not, they're not following the contract. I'm supposed to get what I need. And my manager's been sitting in the office in the air conditioning all day while I'm out here struggling, and they ain't trying to help me." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry about that, but I wish I could make it better." And then all of a sudden she says, "Come with me." So she then walks me across the street to the luxury car lot at the rental car place. And she shows me a G-Wagon, a Lexus, this, that, and the third. And she says to me, "Which Maserati do you want? Do you want silver or do you want black?" And I said, "I want black, but I didn't pay for this." She says, "Don't worry about it. You getting it for the rate that you were supposed to get the vehicle that you got." Now, here's what I want you to understand. The rate that I had for a weekend vehicle that I was going to rent was $124.20 for the whole weekend. Picking the car up on Friday, dropping the car off on Sunday. $124. So now I'm being given a Maserati for $124.20 for the whole weekend. Now, I did a little research online and I found that in Los Angeles, a Maserati could rent between $300 and $600 a day. I'm going to have the car for 2 days, picking it up on Friday, bringing it back on Sunday. 2-day rental that I'm paying $124 for could have gone for $600 to $1,200 in that same weekend. So this rental car company is losing out on significant revenue, almost $1,000 at the high end on this rental. Why? Because their employee was so frustrated that the manager refused to address a basic issue like a broken keyboard so she could do her job effectively. So because she was overworked with a long line of customers that she needed to get to, and we were all getting frustrated because it was taking so long, she took it upon herself, the initiative, to mitigate the stress and the frustration on the customers and the stress and the frustration on herself, and rented me a Maserati. Now, it wasn't just a Maserati sports car, it was a Maserati SUV. So I'm driving around in LA for the weekend, styling and profiling in a Maserati, all because of the experience of the employee. Now, why do I tell this story? Because this story is an example of why lots of employees quit jobs and they don't stay there, because who wants to work on a broken keyboard and physically have to run up and down the aisles to look for a vehicle when you should be able to press a few buttons, click the mouse, and find out what's available? But this woman's keyboard was outdoors. It had been exposed to the elements. And she literally said to me, she told her boss at 7:45 in the morning that it wasn't working. And I was at the rental car counter at 12:45 with a line in front of me and a line behind me to all get a car, that she was going to have to repeat the same process over and over again. So clearly, she was frustrated, massively frustrated. And other employees in hospitality are frustrated. And you can talk to anybody in the restaurant industry, which is hospitality, that they can't keep staff. I was in DC recently talking to the food service director at a university who told me that she can't keep staff. See, when you got unpredictable hours and low pay and you don't get support from management, that's the reason why people quit. That's the first reason why people quit. The second reason why people quit is because of high stress and burnout. Do you think it was stressful to have all of these customers getting irate with her, yelling at her because they are supposed to be somewhere and they were supposed to pick up a rental car and be gone, but now they're at the rental car place for over an hour trying to get a vehicle? That's stressful on your employees. That burns them out. And so nobody wants to work in an unnecessarily high stress and burnout environment. What should be stressful about picking up a rental car? See, I know a little bit about that because my brother worked in the rental car industry for 8 years. Company that I won't name, but he worked there for 8 years. And my brother, he's the opposite of me. He don't want no stress. He has intentionally chosen not to be in a career that drives a lot of high stress. And if he's in a high stress environment, he's going to go work somewhere else. And so he stayed at his rental car place for 8 years because it's low stress. But now everything is high stress in hospitality. Customers are irate. They want service faster. They want everything more efficiently. And if one thing is not right, they're complaining. My wife and I went out to eat at a restaurant the other night, and there was a woman at a table who was beyond unruly. I mean, just like complaining about everything, sending food back, got mad because her waitress had multiple tables in that section, and she walked past their table 3 times to go to other tables who had been sitting there waiting and hadn't taken the order. So they were understaffed, and this woman was stressed out, but this customer started complaining, like loud, just was indignant. So stress and burnout hurts your employees. The third thing of why people quit jobs is because they lack of career growth, that there are no opportunities. That sometimes when you take a job in hospitality, you know you're going to be on the front desk your entire career. You're never moving up to management. You're never going to be in purchasing. You're never going to be in HR. You never get into any other department. You just stand where you were hired. Like if you get hired as a cashier, you pretty much know you're going to stay a cashier. Don't matter what the industry is. If you get hired in customer service and you on the phones, you stand on the phones in customer service. So when people don't see a clear path of career growth, when they don't have it, they will quit. And the hospitality industry has some of the highest turnover rates that we all have ever seen. Like 75% turnover rates. I talked to a guy who literally told me he owns 3 hotels and that 50% of his managers, not frontline staff, 50% of his managers are going to quit within a year. And I'm thinking to myself, how are you hiring people who you know are going to quit in a year? What are you doing to fix that? And he says, nothing. I just know that's how it's going to be. I said, well, why are they quitting? He says, well, one, I'm an independent chain and they're going to get hired to make more money to go work at Marriott or Hilton. So they're going to leave me to go work for them. And I said to myself, bro, do you know that people don't always leave for money? If there's a clear path of growth in the company, if it ain't high stress and they ain't burned out, and if you at least paying them decently and giving them a predictable schedule, they might stay with you over going to work for a bigger chain who is going to pay them low and give them unpredictable hours and stress them out and burn them out and not give them a pathway to leadership positions. I was thinking that to myself, but I was like, ain't no need of me giving this guy advice when he clearly has resigned that he's going to have a 50% turnover rate. So I kind of left it alone. So that's the problem. High turnover in retail, in hospitality, in food and beverage, in the rental car industry, all of these places, even when they give them good wages, the stress and the burnout of dealing with customers, unruly customers, and a lack of career growth is why people quit. So let me give you 3 quick strategies. 3 quick strategies that I think you can implement right now. If you're an HR executive, you can implement these 3 strategies to lower the turnover rate and to make people happier at work, particularly in hospitality. Number 1, you need to rethink pay and benefits. Now, when I say rethink pay and benefits, is that I want you to do a comparative market analysis to make sure that the wages that you're paying are competitive in the market. Do that. Compete with your competition on wages. Make sure your salaries are competitive. And if they are competitive, consider offering something like tuition reimbursement if an employee stays 3 years. Pay for them to go back to school. Give them some other benefits, like if they're part-time employees, offer health insurance coverage. These are some strategies that will help people. Find some way to provide support services like counseling and EAP programs to help them to improve. You got to focus on rethinking your benefits, rethinking your pay if you want to keep your best people. The second strategy that you need to employ if you want to turn around your turnover rate and build a culture where people won't quit and they can find happiness and hospitality is to be supportive in your organizational culture. That you literally have to care about your employees, get to know them. I would encourage you to do more regular check-ins with employees to ask them about their stress level. Ask them this simple question. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being terrific and 1 being terrible, how would you describe your stress level working here? If you do that with every employee on your team, or you teach your managers how to do that with every employee on their teams, you'll get a barometer of how people are feeling about stress. And then people who are managing stress and doing a great job, you got to focus more on rewards and recognition. Put together a robust rewards and recognition program to recognize those frontline employees who are doing a good job of meeting those customer needs. Like that woman, Amy, in the story that I told you about at the rental car place, she needs to be given a trophy because she was trying to mitigate the frustration of all customers. And I sure left happy. And yeah, that rental car company lost a little bit of money, but maybe they made some money because maybe nobody was renting a Maserati that weekend. Maybe that car would have just sat on the lot, but they did get $124 and a happy customer who was not going to change brands because they took care of me. So you got to check in with your employees and reward people who go above and beyond. Recognize them. Little pay bonus won't help. A little extra days off won't hurt at all. You know, you got to do some things to reward and recognize your employees. Give them a pay bonus, give them some more time off, give them a trophy, plaque, give them a phone call from the CEO thanking them for their work. That's big time stuff right there. Now, the third strategy, if you want to mitigate the burnout, keep your talent, keep them from quitting, and help them to find happiness inside of their organization, is that you got to give them a pathway to success. They got to be able to see their trajectory in the company going up, like literally seeing where they can go. So in order to do that, you got to provide more training and mentorship. I literally was just talking to an executive in another industry just yesterday about, training and mentorship. And I asked the question, I said, do y'all pair up new hires and new employees with a mentor internally? Someone who is more senior and that have achieved higher levels in the company so they can see what it looks like to be in that position. You got to train them up. You got to provide mentorship. If you do that, you will help people to find happiness in hospitality. If you don't, you will create an environment where people are going to quit. They're never going to stay. They're going to be miserable every day at work, and your company is going to get and keep a bad reputation for not only how you treat your employees, but how you treat your customers, because we see it. We see it. I know from the time I walk in the door at a restaurant, am I going to have a good experience? I know by the time I walk into a hotel whether I know I have a good experience. I've dealt with audio visual companies, and I know from the time that I meet the AV team whether I know I'm going to have a good experience and the attendees at the conference are going to have a good experience. All of these things reflect on how you pay your people, how you manage your stress and burnout, and whether you've given them a pathway to career growth and progression. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you want more, check out my blog on this subject. Go to antongunn.com/blog and know that I'm going to help you all year, all month with this kind of content to help you to build a better organization by being a better leader and solving the challenges that are right in front of you. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day.